a huge scale.
I blundered into it. I knew that the series that I was embarking on would be longer than anything I'd done before. I mean, up to that point, I had written, the longest I'd written were novels, and they were standalone novels. And each of them was, you know, like 700 pages in manuscript, more or less. It took me about a year to write. When I first sold the series in '94, I'd written a couple hundred pages, and I wrote a little 2-page sketch of what the series would be, and I projected it as 3 books, a trilogy, and I was thinking like 3 books of like 800 pages in manuscript. And I figured it would take me 3 years to write, because all of my previous books had always taken me basically 1 year to write. So this would be 3, so I'd write a book a year, and I sold it on that basis. And then I actually started writing it, and the first book, Game of Thrones, you know, I wrote it, and it hit 800 pages, and I wasn't close to the end, and it hit 900 pages, and I wasn't close to the end, and I hit 1,000 pages, and 1,100 pages, and 1,200 pages, and 1,300 pages, and 1,400 pages, and still there was no end in sight. And at that point, I kind of stopped and said, this isn't going to work. So I pulled out, I restructured, I pulled out hundreds of pages that I'd already written, and I moved them into a new book, which was not one of the 3 projected books, but was the book that became A Clash of Kings. So I pulled out like 400 pages into A Clash of Kings, and then jiggered with the timeline and finished Game of Thrones and delivered it at almost 1,200 pages, which was a lot longer than contracted. And it's now a 4-book trilogy. And there was precedent for that. Gene Wolfe had done a 4-book trilogy before me, so I figured I was okay. But, you know, the 4-book trilogy became a 5-book trilogy, and then a 6-book trilogy, and for years I held at 6. So yeah, I'm going to finish it at 6. And Paris, my wife, would sometimes stand behind me as I say, no, it will definitely be 6, and she'd be holding up 7 fingers. And I finally yielded to that, and you know, it's become enormous. And now I don't fall back on Gene Wolfe. I fall back on Tolkien, and who, you know, the tale grew in the telling. And Lord of the Rings was supposed to be a sequel to The Hobbit of about the same size, and that got away from him too. And not to mention the Silmarillion, but we won't even go into that. So, yeah.